My dad, we came to loggerheads all the time, so that's why I ended up moving out. When my mum left, my buffer with my dad was gone,
Yeah.
and so things started getting heated. And I can completely these days understand that I was part of that. It wasn't just my dad; it
Mm-hmm.
was me and my dad who used to butt heads on a lot of things. And you know, often there's a saying that actually is like you can actually be right or you can have your parent.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that has been instrumental in me actually healing that relationship later down the track. But it took me 15 years to actually get back to a point where I even really communicated with my dad properly. Um,
And what was the actual cause of the rift? What was causing it? Was it the way he was treating you, treating your mother, the way he ran the home?
Probably all of the above.
Yeah.
I really felt he was quite absent.
Okay.
And then he would also there was a bit of physical stuff there as well, and yeah, so it wasn't very nice. And,
Yeah.
but so as I keep moving through, I eventually run out of money, living with these uni students, and so my dad was like, okay, everything's going to be different, just move home. So I moved home, and um, we lasted about 3 maybe 6 months and came to blows, like really really bad blows. And eventually he came to the house with a truck, and when I was at work and I was paying rent and things like that, and he actually picked up all of the items out of the house and took everything and cleared it
Where
out.
you were staying with the uni guys?
No, so
At
I
the
moved back,
family
I
home.
moved back to my
Oh
dad's
yes, yes,
house,
yes, yes, yes.
and then so he actually rocks up with a truck one day when I wasn't around and took all the items out of the house and left.
Oh, good grief! Not your stuff. His.
Yeah, he took my stuff as
Oh,
well.
everything.
He
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
he
He
actually
cleared the house.
he actually donated all my stuff to charity.
Wow.
Okay, and so like things weren't real good. I ended up, um, you know, moving to another state after that, and yeah, I didn't see my mum for 3 years after she left, and so that was really difficult as well. It wasn't an easy time, and I'm struggling with God. I fall out of the church at exactly that same moment.
Yeah.
About 15, 16, I actually got a letter from my church saying that I was living an ungodly life and that I wasn't welcome there anymore. And that was extremely hard to deal with.
Well, let's just stick a pin. Let's just stick a pin there. Not welcome. Let's stick a pin there for a second, because I've got a couple of points I'm just going to make. First of all, I'm going to say um, Jesus taught us to pray our Father, beginning with our Father. And I've got a note here that says, if Satan can distort fatherhood, he distorts how people will see God. And I circled that when you said, you got uncomfortable when if there was a song in church that was about God being my
100%.
father. So Satan. Let's chalk one up for Satan right there. So he's created an environment, or you're in an environment that is not of God, that Satan has actually allowed you to be so uncomfortable with God as a father figure that you walk away. But in my note here it says God introduced himself primarily as father, not as king, not as judge, not as creator, but he wanted that father-child relationship. He taught us to pray, our Father. And the note here says, if Satan can distort that, he distorts how people see God. So whenever there is an attack, or whenever there is a disconnect, a dysfunction between a father and a child, I'd say it's the work of Satan, and that's what we've got to get over.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Have you ever looked at, is the right word, a lineage, in terms of, did history repeat itself?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Like history repeated itself with my dad multiple times. I tried to move home, and it just It was a pattern that we got ourselves into.
But I mean, for him, so in terms of, did he have a great relationship with his father, or was that something?
His father died really young,
Okay.
so he
Okay.
didn't really have that. And I think that's kind of the absent parent that I received. It
Yeah.
wasn't a parent that, you know, cared for me the way that I see myself caring for my children now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It's,
Okay.
That's an interesting one, actually, because I was speaking with one of my sisters just this week. My father's father took him. Well, he actually had to run away with my father. So my grandfather ran away from where he lived with my father in tow, and raised him up. And you know, I'm hearing all these stories about how my grandfather was with my father, and then in the story and he died when my father was 12. So I'm thinking, well, when did all of this happen? So it's before 12. He's taken him, and they're both working. He's working as. When I'm hearing the stories, I'm thinking that the guy's 17, 18, 19, and then he's telling me all of this, and then his father died, and he's had to fend for himself, and he started fending for himself as 12, at
Yeah.
12. And I'm thinking, wow. And just in that conversation I was having with one of my sisters this week, mirrors that, because his father was absent. If I may do the inverted commas, absent, and that made that coloured my father's way of dealing with us as children. I mean, I'm the last of 8, so by the time he got to me, he mellowed.
He's a different man
You
to
know,
you
when
as a first
all the
child.
older ones say, "Oh, you're lucky, you didn't get what we got, and you're lucky you didn't have to do all the things we had to do," and all that kind of thing. But so by that time, he was a lot more present. But yes, that when you asked the question about was it carrying on from what had happened with his father, and then Owen says, well, his grandfather died when he was quite young, and that's exactly what happened with my father. And I can see that absenteeism makes the person
Has an impact.
it doesn't there's certain nurturing things that you never quite learn.
I think children need presence.
Yes,
They need
yeah.
presence from their father, and
Yeah.
if their father isn't present, then their life doesn't have that guide. It doesn't have that person that's actually leading in a direction. And you know, look, I don't think my dad doesn't love me.
Yeah.
I think he does love me. I just think that you can love somebody and you can still hurt them.
Yes.
You know, and I think that when people don't actually have God in their heart properly, they just flail around in the wind and they try and do anything they can to ease the pain in their own heart.
Yeah.
And you see, the problem is the fact that you can't ease that pain on your own.
You actually need God to do that.
100%.
And that is the Kaiser Sose of it all. That is that, you know, the devil convinces us he doesn't exist. Well, in this case, the devil convinces us that God is not our father, and so we never have develop that right relationship with him. And also, there's another, but this might be a different show, talking about when the church actually said, because of your lifestyle, you're not welcome here. But really, and we've had this on other shows, on other platforms, where that is the very time that the church should say, we do we you here. You need to be with us. We need to get our arms around you to fill that gap. Even if you are off the rails, or they would not see you as the ideal member or whatever, that's the time to reach out.
You know, our churches need to be a hospital for the sick.
Yes, 100%.
And whether I was a teenager that was, you know, unruly or whatever you want to call me, the fact of the matter is that I just needed a mentor.
Yeah.
And I didn't have one.
Yeah.
And I mean, would I have listened? Maybe not. I don't know. But you know.
But the seed is being sown, isn't it?
Yeah. So my brother actually fell out of the church at exactly the same time, and he's never come back. And you know, I want to say that only now, 28 years later, am I actually seeing my brother starting to have that inkling of coming back to God?
Right.
But you know, the devil does twist and contort things,
Yeah.
and you know, I was lucky to even be back in the church eventually, but it wasn't like, you know, when I was talking about the fact that I struggled with listening to songs.
Yeah,
That was 10 years later.
Wow.
So that was when I was 25 that I would struggle with going to church and hearing a song about a father figure because I was so angry. And you'll hear why I'm so angry in a minute.
Okay, let's go. Let's go.
Can I just read
she's
a
got
few comments?
She's got some
So
comments.
first of all, let me say I'm sorry to those on YouTube. The sound was off. The sound is back on now. Thank you for letting me know. And yes, you're only seeing Mark and myself today. That's not an accident. Also, the comments are in. I guess you're talking about the ideal for marriage relationships that have broken down. That doesn't involve control or abuse. Sometimes there isn't a choice.
Yes.
I would say most parents want their children raised in an amicable household. And then she goes on to say, isn't the church a hospital? That church is wrong.
Yeah.
And
But
then
we hear it so many times, though, don't we? That's the shame of it, or the disappointment of it.
And
We
I want to address what you just said. You know, like if there is abuse or anything like that, there is a very big difference between forgiveness and reconciliation.
Yeah.
Okay, you can forgive your ex-partner and you can move forward in kindness as a Christian should, and not reconcile with them.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
There's a massive difference between those two things.
Yes.
So there's my tidbit for the slide there.
Yeah.
no problem. Also, we've got coming in from Paul. He says, poverty risk, 43% of children in single-parent families in the UK lived in poverty compared to 26% of children in coupled families.
Yeah.
Children from fatherless homes are twice as likely to drop out of school or experience lower academic achievement. Data indicates elevated risk of anxiety, depression, and behavioral disorder amongst youth raised without an involved father. This is some of the effects of not having an active father.
Okay.
Yep. And then June is completely agree with him. Yep.
Yeah.
So
And she's got something else coming.
Coming up.
We'll come back to her.
So
We've got.
I
yeah,
didn't
it's got-
have
yeah,
a model for what an ideal relationship should have looked like.
yeah.
You know, when you see your family split up at 14, you're literally just looking at the shell of what is, you know, a relationship. So I start my life with literally no understanding of what a relationship is. I have no like good model to look at and go, hey, this is what I should be, you know, ideally looking for. And yeah, when I get into this story, you'll see what I mean.
No. Get into it,
Get
mate.
it.
Get in.
All right then.
Go get.
So I had I had found this girl that I was interested in when I was out partying, and I wanted to stay. Clubs are not a place to find a girlfriend or a wife. They just aren't. Okay, it took me 3 attempts at this before I found one at a church. Okay, just so you know.
Okay.
So, but look, so I found this girl, and you know, we hit it off, and we're having a lot of fun together and stuff like that. And eventually, I moved to Melbourne, and Melbourne, I get involved with serious nightclubs, not underage events, and I start running big clubs, and I'm also running with the head of the Asian Triads in Melbourne. He was a drug dealer, and he was a bad drug dealer. There's articles about him in the news. And I, you know, started doing things that I would never have done before that. But who cares? There's no God, so what do I care? I'd figured, you know, obviously God doesn't care about me and doesn't want to know me, so I'll just do my own thing. And so that's exactly what I'm doing. And running these clubs, I start doing things and getting into trouble. And eventually, as I'm coming down from this drug dealer's house, the federal police are actually going up, and they actually arrested him, and I missed out by about 5 minutes.
Wow.
And you see, I literally looked at it and went, this is a great time to get out of this job. not only that, at the time, we had just found out that we were pregnant. We'd gotten married, and
Okay.
we just thought this was the next evolution of our relationship, and so we just kept moving, kept going. And her parents actually said, "Look, if you stay together, we're going to give you a house. It's your inheritance, but you have to move back to Sydney." So we moved back to Sydney,
Okay.
and we're living in Sydney, and it's great, but we're literally just winging life,
Mm.
and that's no way to go about it. Don't ever let your children wing life, okay?
Mm.
That is not intentional. It is not being in their life the way that you need to be.
Right.
You need to be showing up with persistence and purpose. And you need to help your children have purpose in their lives so they actually know how to move forward with God in their life, and they also know how to move forward in life.
Right. Right.
Right? So we moved back to
That's a
Sydney.
point. I'm going to write that down.
Yeah. So we moved back to Sydney, and I start a development firm, and I'm doing really well at that, and life seems like it's good for a little while, and then my daughter was born, and as soon as my daughter was born, our life imploded. I was about 25 at this point, and hadn't spoken to my dad, and I mean, other than like an odd conversation every now and then, heavily estranged from him. And that had been 10 years that we just kind of went our own way. When it came down to my daughter being born, my wife at the time ended up with severe postnatal depression. And I mean, I was this 25-year-old kid having no idea what I'm actually looking at. There's, obviously it's a mental health issue, and I ignored it. And what do you think a husband does when he... And I'm not proud of some of the things that I've done. I just want to be really clear, guys. That, you start yelling at your partner. Why aren't you doing things? Why aren't you whatever?
Yeah.
I don't think it's any excuse. Me as a father, if I had had a good role model, I would have known to actually look at what was going on in her life. And that's on me. And, I've apologized to her many times. But the whole fact of the matter is that it takes two to tango, and she deteriorated very, very quickly, and our arguments got worse and worse and worse, and eventually, she wouldn't do things with my daughter. I would come home from work, and my daughter would have been left in the cot all day long, and she's in filth, things like that, and it was horrible. A horrible experience. And so of course you just start yelling at your partner. Why the heck aren't you whatever? I didn't know what I was seeing was mental health. I really didn't. I don't know, men can sometimes be oblivious to this sort of stuff, and I want to challenge men that if you're going through something that's out there, that you're experiencing this in a partner or yourself, then I want you to seek help, guys. Because you can't do it on your own all the time. And sometimes you need to know and understand what you're actually looking at to actually help properly. Not just solution find like a man. You need to literally actually get proper advice from... And, the Bible talks about having a multitude of counsel. If you have a multitude of counsel as a man, you're going to end up in a really good place. I had no counsel. So I didn't know what I was looking at, and I just let it all go. And
So all right. So I'm just going to send the number again. It's 074596428898. That's 074596428898. And let us know what any thoughts that you might have based on our conversation. We're in a conversation with Owen Shaw. He's telling us a little bit about his experience. And we're talking about reclaiming fatherhood. We're talking about fighting for fatherhood. And we're going to talk about the weight of co-parenting in just a little while. But in the first 30 minutes of the show, the things that have really come out to me, struck me, is that Satan can distort fatherhood. Because if he distorts fatherhood, he distorts the way that people see God. Okay, if he can get us to not see God as our Father, he's doing his job. And it is a spiritual warfare. It is a spiritual battle that we've got to understand that is what we're involved in when we see all of these sorts of dysfunctions between ourselves and our fathers and ourselves and our children, and ourselves with our relationship with the mothers of our children. It's a spiritual battle that is going on, and we may not be able to win it in the terms of reconciliation, but surely we have to keep fighting so that we can win it in terms of being present and delivering for our children in the way that God would have us to do. And certainly if we are members of a church, if we are faith-based people, we should be nurturing and welcoming. And even if we can't do anything specifically, we don't have the specific skills, once we see someone in that sort of pain and in that sort of dysfunction, we should have our arms around them and then go and find ways to signpost them to those clinicians or those experts that can help. So that's what we've got. That's what I've got from our first half an hour of the conversation.
But
Charlie.
I think one of the things that have come to me in terms of parents and new parents and the support we put around new parents, and I think no one prepares you for parenthood. There's no amount of books or conversations you have that can prepare you for that moment when it's 3 o'clock in the morning, you haven't slept for 3 days, and a baby is crying, and you love the baby, but the baby's the most annoying thing to you. That
My baby slept through the night.
So did
the
mine.
whole time, like 7 till 7
Yeah.
every night without fail, from about 7 months old,
Brilliant.
8 months old.
But it's the emotion of being a new parent and everything that comes with it. So lots of how men feel when they've just had a baby and the attention potentially comes from them. Women trying to fight the feeling of, am I a good parent? Am I not? But I feel like I don't want to do anything and I'm tired. And you have all the rush of different emotions going through you, but you still have to keep pressing forward. And sometimes it's the pressure to keep pressing forward when some days you just want to stop.
Yeah.
So I think it's everything. It made me reflect on the everything that comes to new parenting that we don't talk a lot about.
Yeah. Well,
Yes, but then okay, right. So I'm looking at this now, and I'm saying, all right. We started off with, when you hear the word father, what comes to mind? I said provider. Owen said guide. You said God. We don't have a textbook that takes us right through. This is what we have to do, and this is the best way to navigate it. But what's innate in us is that we know that we have to be a guide, a provider, a protector. What were some of the other words that there was on my list? Instill discipline, show love. So we have to do all of those things, nurture. And the key thing that even if we're not experts at it, Owen said, children need presence. They need you to be there emotionally. They need you to be there so that they can start to feel confident that they're going to get some form of guidance. And the note here, one writer has got a note here that says that, remember, the title isn't enjoying fatherhood, it's fighting for fatherhood. And what I'm taking from that is that they're saying that, remember, it's a spiritual battle. So yeah, any given morning, I might feel I don't want to get up and show up for the family or show up for my kids, or I might not want to go to work and provide. I might not want whatever it is I don't want. But remember, not showing up, not doing the right thing, not stepping up for your child is losing the battle, or allowing Satan to win the battle to distort fatherhood, because that is what destroys the families. That's what destroys, then the extension of that is destroys society. That community, it destroys all those things. You don't think so?
I don't think I buy into all the Kool-Aid you're selling, but let's go back
No,
to Owen.
I'm not selling. I'm not selling Kool-Aid. What's your point?
Where the Kool-Aid be at? I need some.
I'm not selling Kool-Aid. I kind of actually resent the influence.
Have a
But
drink.
so let me know what it is what is the Kool-Aid that you feel that I'm selling, and then
I think you're selling an ideal, and I think the fact of the matter is that most people on this planet are not ideal. And, we don't have it all together. We are struggling every single day to try and bring what we believe is the right thing. And, I think those that try and do it on their own without God in their life, and that's what you're actually trying to say, is the fact that you need God to be filling, and guiding and leading you. And like I've said, my relationship with my father, it taught me a hell of a lot about who I wanted to be as a father. But that didn't come until a lot later in life.
Yeah.
And even at this point where, my partner's going downhill very badly.
Yeah.
In fact, so badly that she ends up in the psychiatric ward. And she ends up there for very, very lots of months. Now, you remember what I actually said was that the house was ours as long as we stayed together.
Yeah.
Okay? As soon as we knew we were splitting up, because in the psychiatric ward, my partner at the time actually shacked up with someone else while she was in the psychiatric ward. So
Okay.
she actually found another person to be with while she was in there, and the clinicians that were there actually called me and said, "Look, you need to come," and they said, "You need to move on from this relationship. She's found somebody else in here."
Wow.
And I'd said I'd wait for her, and yet obviously she didn't want that. I don't know to this day why it all happened the way it happened, but I do know that it hurt me immensely. And so then I'm now going from trauma with my dad to trauma with the next partner, and I'm actually repeating that pattern already.
Yeah.
And you'll see me repeat it multiple times as this conversation goes on.
Yeah.
I have a lot of pain from that. Even to this moment, I still struggle to talk about it. So the only reason I do talk about it is because of the fact that I want to help other dads that are out there. I want to help other mums that are out there. If you are going through postnatal depression, recognize it yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, us blokes, we're not too smart all the time. So you probably need to give us a bit of warning. Hey, look, I'm feeling depressed, or this is what's going on. Men need a little bit of an explanation sometimes. Sorry, men, we do.
Yeah, but in the same way that I would say that women need a bit of an explanation when certain things are going wrong in my mind, and I need to speak. It's communication, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I need
self-expression.
I need to say. She'll say, "Look, this is how I'm feeling. This is not right. Whatever. I'm not feeling 100% because of X, Y, Z, or maybe I don't even know why. But and then I should be able to say I'm not feeling 100%. For whatever
So do you know
reason.
how the Japanese do this?
How's that?
They actually don't argue. What they will do is, if they have a squabble with each other, they will actually sit back to back, and they're not allowed to have eye contact for like 3 or 4 minutes, and they just sit back to back, and then once they have breathed together, then eventually they actually talk about the problem, the concern, or whatever's going on. But yeah, you should actually. It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Anyhow,
we should. No. I mean, no. Don't rush off from that one. I mean, that's a good thing to. We don't know what we're doing, and we don't know what's going on. We're just feeling really sort of great, overwhelmed. Yes, and then let's just sit.
Let's just sit.
Let's
back
just
to back,
sit.
Not look at each other, because you can't get
Let's
tonality. You can't get eye contact. You can't get face pulling or anything like that when you're sitting back to back.
Yeah.
So you're literally not focusing on each other for the moment, and you're just breathing together.
Yeah.
For 3 to 4 minutes.
Let's try
and
that.
Once you've done that, then move into the discussion properly, the way you need to.
Yeah.
So I thought you had said when your breathing is the same.
Yeah.
Then that's what you
because
that's
your,
why
your heart and your breathing will end up beating with the other person.
Yeah, that's the bit I loved about what you said, because
so his Kool-Aid's okay.
Yes,
yeah, my Kool-Aid's good.
Always
good Kool-Aid.
Okay.
It's the premium grade.
Right, yeah.
Premium grade
I'm still waiting for why mine wasn't, although I wasn't selling any. Oh, we've got Earl's here. So as a father, I found myself. Hi, Earl. I just jumped to his bottom comment. I'll read it because it made me laugh. He said, "But backs could be very vulnerable." So you're sitting back to back and you're thinking, "What are you doing? What are you doing?"
And
But
it's the other one where you're allowed, as long as you're married, you're allowed to fight naked. You know that, right? So just as soon as the fight starts, just start stripping down. It's fine.
So he says, "As a father, I found myself bringing up 2 daughters right through puberty on my own. I didn't notice any books on the topic." Yeah, exactly. I missed.
That's what brings me here.
Yeah. I missed Shah's way of reading from a distance. I've missed the way that you read from a distance. Okay, and then black backs can be very vulnerable. Paul Bryant says, Paul, and you've got okay.
I've got comments
Let me
coming.
read this one, and then you do some comments. Paul Bryant says, "Hi, Paul. I haven't spoken to Paul for a little while." Paul Bryant says, "But black folks are not wired that way." Is it a wiring? We might not be used to it. And Paul Lee will probably say it's a cultural thing. That's Paul's favourite word.
Well, you say that. That's not necessarily true.
What? That's your favourite word?
That is my favourite word.
No.
But don't you behave the same way that people around you behave?
Yeah, which is the cultural thing, really. 'Cause, I mean, Paul Bryant
but
says
it might
black
not
folks.
be. It might not be. If I circulate around a group of men,
Yeah.
it's not necessarily based on culture,
Right.
but I'm with a group of like-minded individuals.
Right.
But it's not necessarily a cultural thing.
Okay. Good. No. Good. No. I'm happy to run with that because I just thought that you were going to give me the cultural. But Paul, black folks are not wired that way, and so that would be a cultural statement. But as Owen said earlier, he said, "I'm trying to promote an ideal." But then, if what we're doing isn't working, why not try something different, the ideal, or we don't know it's ideal yet, but why not try something different? I think that's a nice thing to try to
It's a
attempt.
nice thing to not kill each other.
Every culture argues.
Yes, but we're beyond that. That we're at the how do we resolve? We've got this heated bit.
I don't think it's a race thing. Anyway, I've got a couple.
Yeah, hold on, can I finish first?
Do we need to go back to back?
Yeah. We might need
Right
to.
now.
We might need to.
No,
Come on. No, we'll do it in the chairs.
Back to back.
Paul says, oh, he's talking about my video on my Facebook is buffering. Sorry, I can't do anything about that. And he's saying culture is the same thing. It's the same way. Yeah. When he's saying blacks are not wired that way, we argue first, then figure it out later. Yeah, because come on, let's think. You could come to this back to back, or this way of resolving. All we're saying really is a way to get us to talk without fighting. So, however we get there, Paul says we argue first, and you might be in the middle of the middle of an argument, and then say, you know what?
Yeah, take a time out.
Yeah, take a time out. That's what I'm
Give yourself
taking.
some time out.
That's what I'm
Exactly.
taking from
Go
that.
back to back.
Go on,
Right.
Charlie. You want to read some of
So
yours?
Paul is showing us all these statistics tonight. Statistics show that roughly 70%.
Is that Paul Weeks?
Yes, 70% of juveniles stated Operation Correctional Institute, and about 39 to 50% of adult inmates grew up in single-parent or father-absent households. But you know what? I think I think there's something about people being healed that we're not talking about, because yes, you can raise a child as a solo parent, but if you're healed as an individual, that the impact that has on your child is very different than if you're not.
Yes.
Anyway, I think there are children from the West Indian community that had suffered from fathers who did not know how to connect with their children, especially boys. Their method of discipline revolved around violence. The result is men who have issues relating to their emotions. Yep, okay. I hear
But
that.
the only thing I'm saying about that, to comment on that, is that we say men of what was it, Caribbean culture? How did they West Indian culture? You see, the thing is, what I've seen is that it's men from all cultures, but the West Indian people are talking about men from West Indian culture because we are.
Agreed.
But then,
Yeah.
but then people that are from the Chinese culture or the North American culture or the Australian, if I could say that without an Australian being in the room, I just said Australian culture or whatever. If you're an absent father and or if you've grown up with a father that didn't have the tools or did not exercise the tools or did not have a or a good relationship with his father, there's a dysfunction, well, no matter what culture you're in, and
That's
that dysfunction gets passed on to the child, and
So
creates a
that's
further
exactly.
dysfunction.
Can I read
Yes, carry on.
a couple comments? I think one of the main problems is one or the other parent using the child. Why can't parents put themselves aside and look at the needs of the children
Yeah.
rather than trying to get at each other through the children? Hopefully, men are more aware of PND, postnatal depression now. Should the church be a support network for these parents?
100%.
We
Yes.
said there, yeah.
And then she ends with hurt people if they don't seek intervention.
Yes. You got
Yeah,
any?
and
You got
look,
any?
I'm trying to push a different way of doing things.
Yeah.
I am sick of dads doing things wrong in a way that hurts their children and hurts their wife. You know, and it's taken me a long time to learn that I was doing things wrong, and I'm completely able to admit that. You know, I think that there's a lot of pain out there that nobody deals with. And here's where my pain compounded, because you see, as soon as she got in a relationship with somebody else in this psychiatric ward, then her parents came over to the house and actually threw me out of the house.
All right.
So
Yeah.
for the second time in my life, I was now homeless. And if it wasn't for a mate that actually owned a warehouse, I never would have found anywhere, because there was 50 to 60 people showing up to every house inspection in Sydney, and it was horrible. And he owned a warehouse that I started staying in. My daughter was 1 at the time, and
Yeah.
she because as soon as they threw me out of the house, they actually said, well, you don't have anywhere for your daughter, so we're going to take custody of her.
Yeah.
And so they took my daughter, and I moved into a warehouse, and I started battling with depression as a man, and, you know, obviously not having anybody to mentor me in any way, shape, or form, I just spiraled out of control.
Yeah.
And so I turned to drinking, and as soon as that happened, I ended up, you know, just club hopping and all sorts of other things that, you know, I'm still completely out of the church at this point.
Yeah.
I went on a bender with a couple of girls, and 10 days, like, I would be intoxicated for. It wasn't 2, it was 10
Yeah.
at a time. And, you know, men that are out of control are just following into Satan's chaos.
Yeah.
And that's all there is to it.
Yeah.
You know, I want to help encourage men that are out there to do something different. And
Yeah.
that's why I will give you tools, and I will give you tips, and I will give you, you know, the things that I've learned over time, because I still also didn't have God as a father figure at all. And so I'm just flailing around in the wind, doing whatever the heck I want, hoping that I'm actually gonna, you know, I don't even think I even had a purpose for my life at this point. I was just working to make some money to go out and do what I wanted to do. And, you know, as I'm in this warehouse, eventually I get a phone call from the police, and they say you need to come over to the grandparents' house. And so I drove over to the grandparents' house, and they said, well, your daughter's gone missing. She's been kidnapped. My ex-partner had gotten out of the ward with the guy that she'd shacked up with, and she drove over to the grandparents' house. She threw my 1-year-old daughter on the back seat of the car, and for a long period of time, I had to deal with the thought of losing her. I had never experienced any pain like the pain of losing a child. And, you know, the police were priming me for the fact that they might not recover her.
Yeah.
You know, when I just left Australia, in my hometown there were 2 triple murders, where in one instance the dad had killed the kids and the mum, and in the other one the mother had actually killed the husband and
Yeah.
the 2 kids. And, you know, this is the thoughts that are racing through my mind at this point.
Yeah.
Am I ever going to see my daughter again? And you know, it didn't take the police a day to track her down. It took them 2.5 weeks.
Wow.
And so they put out an Amber Alert for her, and they had, oh man, sorry, this even hurts saying it. It's like, so I had to go home to my warehouse, and I was laying on the floor with anxiety attacks every hour. And you know, I couldn't get up off the floor. It was so intense, the pressure that would be on your chest. You couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
And you couldn't. I relive it every time I tell it, and it kills me because you know, I didn't have anybody.
Yeah.
I didn't have anybody to turn to. And you know, I'm laying on this floor, and in this very moment, I threatened God. I said, God, if you are there, step up and save me and my child, or I will defame your name to every person I meet for the rest of my life. And I meant it. And I screamed it out. I remember screaming it so loud, it filled the entire warehouse with the anguish that was in my heart. You know, about 5 minutes later, I got a friend request from somebody I hadn't heard from in 10 years. And you know what he said? He said, "Hey Jesse, I woke up with your name on my mind this morning, and I've been searching for you for 4.5 hours. What the hell is going on?" And I started spilling the beans. I started saying to him, you know, look, my daughter's missing, and I don't know what I'm going to do. And I don't know how to help myself. And he said, well, I want to tell you about a God that can change your life, a God that can give you peace and understanding, a God that can actually heal you and that can save you and your daughter. And he said, I'm going to pray for you. And I was like, man, I don't want you praying for me. That is weird, you know. And you know what? He said, if you don't let me pray for you, I'm going to have my entire church praying for you by the other end of the day, like the other end of the night.
Yeah.
And he said, if that doesn't work, I'll have every person I know praying for you by the end of the week or whatever. And I was like, all right, just get it over and done with. So you know, this guy, he prays, and he says, I'm the chaplain at Lilydale Adventist Academy in Melbourne, and he goes, I want to tell you about this God. And then he prays, and this prayer, I experienced the first peace I have ever experienced in my life. It was like a flood of light, and also a power that you just can't understand. It filled my heart, even as I was before I was having anxiety attacks. They disappeared in this moment, and I still remember it clear as day. I got off the phone and I just wrote it off. I was like, I just feel good because I spoke to somebody. You know, I just got it off my chest.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just feeling good because of the fact that I've spoken to somebody. You know what I said? All right, God, if you're actually real, do something again. Go on, do something. And you know what? I got another friend request from one of these two girls I went on a bender with. And you know, the only thing that she has ever said to me is, hey Jesse, I have a Bible text for you.
Wow.
And I was like, huh? Believe me, with the things that we were up to, I don't even think she was Christian. And all she said was, I have a Bible text for you. And you know what that Bible text said? It was in Psalm 32 verse 8, and it said, I will love you and teach you in the way you should go with my loving eye upon you. And you know, I'm literally shaking in my little boots by this point, because God's just shown up twice in the same hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, if I have ADHD, and if it wasn't for God showing up in those last moments, I don't think I would know it was him. I have to get right down to the wire before he shows up. And you know, the thing was that after seeing God show up in your life, where do you think I went?
Go
I went to the pub.
on. Okay.
I went straight to the pub and I just was like, oh yeah, I feel a little bit better. They still haven't found my daughter, but I was like, I feel a little bit better. I just went straight to the pub, and my mate owned the pub. It was down the coast a bit, and he said, well, why don't you come and live here? And I said, okay, no worries, I'll go get my stuff. So I moved into the pub that night, and he had guest houses in the top floor, and it was he didn't use the guest houses anymore, so he said you can have the whole top floor. So it was big, it was like 20 rooms, and I ended up moving down to that pub, and eventually my daughter is returned to the grandparents' house, not to my house, because I'm obviously living in a pub and it's not really a fit location for a young lady to live. She was only very close to 2 at this point. So they eventually found her and they returned her to the grandparents' house. And as soon as this happened, they actually sued both my ex and myself for full custody of my daughter in court. And so now things have gone from horrendous to horrendous with legal action. And there wasn't 1 or 2 lawyers, like me and my ex-partner. There was 5. There was my lawyer, my ex's lawyer, the independent children's lawyer, the court's lawyer, and the grandparents' lawyer. So there's a 5-way court battle that pops out of nowhere and starts destroying me in other ways. And I'd experienced that now maybe God actually did care about me. And so I started pursuing a relationship with him.
Right.
And I think that's what men need to do.
Okay. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to say, I've got it written here again, and I know I'd written it before, so maybe somebody else made the point as I was making my notes. It says, just remember that Satan hates fathers because fathers shape generations. So if you can destroy the father, if he can destroy the father, then he's winning his battle. So I'm going to pivot now and just ask you said you had some tips of different ways that we can overcome, that different ways that fathers can show up, be present. Let's hear some of those. Oh, let's see if I've got. I'm gonna do that next, but I'm just gonna read a couple of the messages that came through. So Paul Bryant said the unrecognizable truth is that the black family was destroyed by the transatlantic slavery. This was compounded by years of the Jim Crow and plantation indoctrination. The destruction of the black male has been socially engineered by the saying, "You shall not surely die." This is the satanic tragedy akin to Babylon and its eventual fall, and we must not drink of her wine any longer. Okay, so that's Paul. Earl says, oh, he's got to leave, but so Earl's gone. Earl's got to leave. Jacqueline Sutherland says, wow, wow, wow. Paul Bryant says, I'm sorry to hear this testimony, born from having no faith, but then finding faith. And then Yvonne says that she's here. And Paul Bryant says, Satan, the father of lies. And I think that has become very, very clear from the testimony we've heard so far from Owen. And what Owen's going to... You got a few comments?
I've got one comment that's come in. It just says, what could have made a difference for you, if any? And I'm not... And I can't remember the point that came in.
I think nothing. Wait till you see what God does. All right, I think that sometimes we need to just sit there and watch and wait for God to actually do things.
Yeah.
Do you want me to keep going, or what do you want me to do?
No. You said you had some tips, and
yeah.
So let's hear some of the tips that you've got for us.
So the number one tip that I have for you is something that I do every single day, and that is that I pray for a hedge of protection around my family. And we know that this is a thing because Job had a hedge of protection around his family, and Satan comes down and says to God, goes to God and says, remove your hedge of protection from your servant Job.
Yeah.
And one thing that I do every single day with my family is pray for that hedge of protection. Whether I'm with them or whether I'm not with them, I'm still praying for that hedge of protection. And that every single time it is just, it has protected my family
Yeah.
every day. And I want to keep moving on this story because you're running out of time real fast.
Yes, but that's what I wanted to hear. So if you got, is the next tip related to a later part of the story, or if not,
Yeah,
I'd like
it
it
is.
is. All right, do the story and then give us the tip. Go on.
So,
I have to, and tell me if I'm spoiling the story, but that daughter you
Yeah.
just told us about, you don't know what I'm going to ask yet. That daughter you just told us about,
Yep.
is that one of the 4 blended
Yes,
children?
absolutely.
Okay, you carry on with your story. Yeah.
Absolutely. Look, so I'm down in this pub,
Yeah.
and there's a huge court battle that's going on,
Yeah.
and it's nasty. It is not a fun court battle. These 5 lawyers are destroying us. It cost me nearly $100,000 to actually go through this court case, which is about £50,000. Now, that's also soul crushing to a father because finances and providing for his family is pretty much the only thing he's born for.
Yeah.
It's like it's hardwired into
Tell me
man.
about it. Yeah.
And so I want, if you're struggling with that,
Yeah.
guys, ask God to provide for you as well. He's your father; He'll provide
I'm
for you.
writing
as
that
well.
down.
That's one of the other tips. There you go. So we'll keep throwing them in as we
Yeah,
go.
yeah. I'll write them
Alright.
down. You throw them. I'll write them down.
Okay, so look, this court battle is going badly for me. I'm down to 1 day a month of access to my daughter, and that 1 day a month is a supervised visit. And it got nasty. I was losing badly in court. I had no house. The grandparents had purposely held back the rental history that I actually had so that I wouldn't be able to get custody of my daughter. And I wasn't able to get a house. I was going to every house inspection I could possibly get my hands on, and there's 50 people showing up, and I have no rental history, so it was impossible. And in this pub, one of the most providential things, and when I actually preach, I actually liken the story to the story of Gideon. And the story of Gideon, he's struggling and hiding on a wine press, but he feels pressed in on every side. And the Amalekites and the Midianites are attacking the Israelites all the time, and they're hurting them constantly. And this is kind of how I felt. I felt like I was never going to get free of all of this pain. And on the fridge inside my apartment, in this guest house, in this pub, there's a Gideon's Bible on top of the fridge, an old red one. And I start picking this up every day and reading it. And every single time I would read something in this Bible, whatever I was reading, I was following it up with a YouVersion app, like study guide. And every single time I would read something, it would happen in court, or it would be applicable to that day.
Wow.
And it started getting so uncanny that I was like, man, this is weird. But eventually, it gets down to 3 or 4 days before the court, like the final hearing in this court case, and I've lost. My daughter's grandfather was a Presbyterian pastor, and the grandmother was a SOC, somebody who puts children into foster care. And so she knew the system inside out, upside down, backwards and frontwards. And I couldn't contend with it in court. On paper, they looked perfect. And so I have no hope. And, that's one of the biggest things that I can say to fathers out there. If you have no hope left, I want you to come to church this week. Because I tell you what, you're going to find some hope there. As soon as you go through that door, ask God to show you somebody or lead you to somebody in that church that can give you some hope back. Okay? And mums out there that are struggling with relationships in the opposite direction, I just want you to do the same thing. Show up and be present and watch what God does in this space. Okay?
And
Yeah.
also, we should pray for the church so that when they do show up, we are not the church that you had at the very beginning that we're saying you're no longer welcome. So we've also got to pray for ourselves that as part of the church, that anybody that does show up, we do have our arms around them.
And all you people out there that are listening, I want you to come to church as you are.
Yeah.
And you know what? If the church doesn't accept you for who you are, that ain't the right church for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just being
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
Look, so this court battle is going really badly, and I am struggling. But you know, I read one night a Bible verse, and it said, "Let the Lord fight your battles and just be still." Do you have any idea how hard it is for somebody with ADHD to sit down and be still? It doesn't happen real easy. And I'm literally questioning God, sitting on the side of my bed going, how do you expect me to be still? You know, it's literally the fight of fatherhood for my life.
Yeah.
You know, I am fighting to be a father to my own daughter. And it seems impossible, improbable even. The odds of me succeeding or winning are astronomically low. And, you know, I'm also running out of money. And so it's like, I don't even know if I can keep paying my lawyer.
Yes.
You know, and I just sat there and I thought to myself, how can God expect somebody to be still in this mess? And you know what I did? I said, all right, I'm going to get on my knees. And I prayed. And I prayed probably properly for the first time in my life. And I said, God, if you're really there again, I said, I've got no hope of doing this without you. I have no hope of ever getting access to my daughter. I said, can you help me? I will try and be still. He knows what that is as an ask for me. It's a hard ask. So, you know, faith without action is yeah. Anyway, we'll wait. There's another tip. have to have the action that goes with the faith, guys. You can't just expect God to bring His half if you're not showing up with your half. Okay, so faith and action. I just I sat there for ages and begged God to help. You know, we were only a few days before the final hearing, and I got a call from the police again. And I drove at 200 kilometers an hour from where I was down the coast to the grandparents' house because, you know, I'd had one of these experiences before and they refused to tell me over the phone what the heck was going on. So I just got in the car and drove. I'm not very proud of that. That was putting other people at risk, and I apologize to the community. Right. But when I got to the grandparents' house, there is glass all over the front of the house, and my daughter's sitting in a police car, and they said, "Do you want to take your daughter?" And I'm like, "What?" They're like, "Do you want to take your daughter?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "You can have custody of her if you want it." And I was like, "How? What? What are you talking about?" My ex-partner's sister had thrown a chair through a window, and then she called the police herself, and she told them that it wasn't a fit location for my daughter to live. And so the police had called Family and Community Services, and they were all involved.
Wow.
And they had said that the father's stable, but he's obviously needs accommodation. And you know, I said I don't have accommodation. They said, "Well, you've got 24 hours to find some accommodation." And I said, "Okay." So at this very moment, I rang my dad out of sheer desperation because my dad, like, at least had a house and things like that. And I thought, surely I'm okay to, you know, ask my father for help at some point in my life. And I rang him, and, you know, I said, "Look, I have an opportunity to get custody of my daughter. Can we come and renovate your shed, or can we just, come and stay in one of your rooms or whatever it might be, but I just need this, Dad. Like, it's like
Mm-hmm.
my only chance. And you know what he said? He goes, I don't know you. And hung up the phone.
No. That's not what I was anticipating. Okay.
So he hung up the phone and he said no. And I was then traumatized from even that. I sat there for ages just thinking, what other opportunity do I have? And this prayer thing had been working for me. So I got back on my knees and I started praying. And I said, God, I got no hope here. None whatsoever. Please help. And I started calling around some mates that owed me money from my business because I was like, I better get a bond together or something like that. And I rang around some friends and I called up this guy that I'd only been in business with for about 6 months, and he owed me a little bit of money, and I said,
Leisha,
please have
sweaty
the
red
money.
face with
And,
tufts.
it was when I rang him, I said, oh, can you just transfer me those funds that you owe? And he was like, yeah, sure. Hey Jesse, you don't know anybody that needs to rent a house, do you? And I'm like, what? Yeah. So, yeah, and he basically said, yeah, do you need to come and pick up the keys? And I said, yeah, can I have this house? And so I went over there and I picked up the keys, and I took my daughter to the house and we stayed there, and then he rang back, and I always say that God doesn't just meet your needs, he exceeds your expectations every time.
Amen.
And exceeding my expectations was the fact that he rang me up the next week and he said, you're going through a really tough time, aren't you? And I'm like, yeah, you could say that. He said, how about I give you the house for half rent for the first year?
Wow.
So not only did God meet my needs, he exceeded my expectations, and he does that every single time. And you know what? I challenge every father out there to surrender completely and give their heart to God, because it's the only way. And the funny part is that I've just told you this much of my story. Like, not even a centimeter of it. Or are you guys in inches? I can't remember.
we got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got it. Yeah. Wow. So are you at the point to give us another tip? Or Jackie Sutherland said, Paul Bryant, when you mentioned, be still and how difficult that was, Paul Bryant came in and said, yes, be still, and praying for protection for your family. He's with you on that. Jackie Sutherland has got lots of applause for the testimony and applause for God showing up. And Yvonne Reynolds says, wow, the power of prayers. So that's coming through quite clearly.
And then I've got, God doesn't just meet your needs, he exceeds your expectations every time.
Every time.
Wow, what a God we serve. And I also have up here, Paul is jumping all over the screen. He says, I wish men especially could find the way to learn how to share and support each other. So many men are suffering in silence.
Hey bro, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah. There are times men can be surrounded by members but are alone. I'm not sure how this can happen, but I pray that it happens.
Yeah.
Then we have...
Okay, I can tell you how it happens, and here's the next tip. It's the perfect moment for this tip. Okay, one of my mentors passed away really recently. And he was a pastor at the local church, and he died of a horrible thing. It's called cancer. He was only 48. Okay, and he left behind a daughter, and I was really good friends with this guy. We would message every day, and 3,000 people showed up to his funeral.
Wow.
And do you know what I was like shocked by how many people actually showed up to this funeral. And so I went around and I asked every single person, why are you here?
Mm.
You know, how do you know the pastor? I'm not going to say his name because I don't particularly want to do that. But I said, why are you guys all here? You know, and you know, every single person answered the same way. Do you know what they said? Oh, pastor used to message me every day. Or pastor used to message me every week. Pastor used to connect with me all the time. Pastor used to care for me so much that I could not miss his funeral. And you know what? He used to message me every day. The last message I sent to him was, I love you. And he said, I love you back. And you know, this is what a real father does. A real father connects with his children and connects with the sheep in his flock. Treats every single person around him like one of his children.
Yeah.
And that is the
That was his
ultimate
legacy.
expression of God's love.
Yeah.
Is showing up for the people that are in your vicinity. Be present. Hear what is going on in their life. Listen to their story without actually saying anything.
Yeah. Paul Bryant says, why do men suffer in silence? Paul Week says men suffer in silence often. And then Paul Bryant says, why do men suffer in silence? Why do we suffer in silence?
That's an easy one too.
Go on
It's
then.
called ego. Most men have ego and they can't fathom sharing their pain with somebody else. And so they keep it to themselves.
Is it ego that makes you not want to share your pain? Is that
worrying about the judgment?
Worrying about the
Are
judgment?
other people going to judge me?
Okay.
Are these friends going to stop talking to me because they know about my pain?
Yeah.
I've felt like that myself
Yeah.
many times. I only share this story because of the fact that I don't want other people to go through the same thing as
Yeah.
me.
Okay, Paul, what do you think about that? But why do men suffer in silence? Because ego, they don't want to they feel the loss of showing other people that they're in pain. Sharon just says Sharon's watching, and Paul Bryant says, yes, remember to message those around you, people in your network. Just let them know that you're there and you care. Charlie.
Can I just Sharon, who's also here, says, thank you for sharing your testimony.
Yeah.
Hallelujah. June, you need to write a book.
We're only 3% through my testimony, just so you know.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I have written a book. I just haven't drummed up the courage to publish it.
Okay.
Listen,
We'll look out for it. We'll look out
What a
for
God. All men need to hear your story. Go from church to church. Churches need to know they need to do better.
Okay, so I have this rule.
it. Okay,
And-
take it away. You got 35 minutes to get through the 97%.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I don't know what to do. We're in trouble here, people. Is there a panic switch here somewhere?
Well, take us to 50% and come back for a part two. Let's go.
Okay, so I wanna really get into something right now, and it's gonna get really deep. So the one issue that I have that I don't repeat anymore is this: I always read the rest of the Bible verse. You see, Psalms 32 verse 8. The next 5 years of my life never would have happened had I actually read the rest of the Bible verse. So now, whenever I get given a Bible verse, I always read up and I read down. I read the whole chapter.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you ever get given a Bible verse by somebody, read the whole chapter, people. Because, trust me, you want to.
Yeah.
Because you see, the next passage in Psalm 32 verse 8 says, do not be like a mule that needs a bit and a bridle to be brought back to me.
Okay.
And you
Yes.
see, I didn't surrender to God at that point. When I had this faith-shaking experience, yep, okay, I know God exists, but guess what? I start running in the opposite direction. And I'll tell you what happens when you run in the opposite direction. You end up like Jonah and getting dragged back by your heels, and that's what happened to me. So, first point of advice, read up, read down whenever you get a Bible verse, because it's probably got more instruction for you than you realize. had the same mistake, jumped into another relationship straight away. And, you know, I jumped out of the frying pan into the fire. And at exactly the same time, I start actually getting sick. Now, I firmly believe that God kept me in an uncomfortable position until I surrendered to Him. And it takes me 5 years to get to that point. And in those 5 years, I put myself through living hell. Now, I jumped into another relationship with just another person that I found. Found her in the pub that I was living in.
Mm-hmm.
Remember how I keep telling you nightclubs, pubs, not the right place to find relationships? I mean it. Gentlemen, if you are out there, this is not the place to find a relationship. I had a lot of struggles because of the fact that I don't listen to God a lot. And it's only in the last 5 years, even now, that I've surrendered completely to Him. And it took me 5 years, and that's, yeah. So with when I got sick, I actually got bitten by a tick, and I ended up with something called Lyme disease.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Lyme disease is a very, very nasty illness. I had full systemic issues. I had basically swollen knees, ankles, brain fog. They call it air hunger. It's where you actually wake up and you can't breathe, and people actually die from it. It's weird. And I had like full chest pain all the time. I had like full arthritis in my hands, my feet, everything. It's like an inflammation response to pathogens, and I start seeing doctors for this, and it's a real problem. Now, I start getting put on medications, and I was on about 18 different medications over the time of this. But before I got on any of those medications, before I found a doctor that would treat me, I would go to doctors and they would say, "You're crazy. Have some antidepressants. You know, there's nothing going on for you." And I remember actually talking to a doctor and saying, "Why on earth would I destroy a multi-million-dollar business that I was running at the time?" And you know what? He's just like, "Oh, you're just depressed. Go take some antidepressants." And eventually I got tested in the United States, and they said, "Yes, you definitely have this pathogen, and this pathogen, and this is the treatment plan that we're going to go with."
Yeah.
And so I actually had to go overseas from Australia to find treatment, and I start getting all these medications, and it's not working. You know, I come back and it's really not working. Now, I had moved from the house that we were in, and me and my second partner had a new little bub as well.
Okay.
And so now I have the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually moved opposite our church. And I for years as I was sick, my relationship, you know, started deteriorating again. I was repeating the pattern again.
Right.
And I didn't see it as a pattern until way later in life. I remember being so delirious one particular time that I actually yelled something out in the middle of church. Very embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
But that particular day, I heard a sermon, and it was about surrendering completely to God. And this is 5 years after being sick.
Yeah.
Now, I had struggled financially with, I had $30,000 credit card. And, you know, for a very long period of time before this, I always felt like, you know, God wasn't really interested in me. I've mentioned that a couple of times, but I actually have an analogy, and it's like, you know when Jesus was up on the mountain, and the disciples are struggling across the lake,
Mm-hmm.
and as they're struggling across the lake, you know, they're rowing against the wind and the
Yeah.
water, and Jesus he can see them. It says
Yeah.
he can see them, and yet he doesn't seem to step in and help. And that's how I felt like God was, you know, for a very long period of time.
Yeah.
He's there, but he's not really
Yeah.
helpful. you know. And when all this started happening, I started getting really suicidal, and you know, like being sick for years at a time. I lost my business. You know, my relationship was going downhill very, very quickly. And I had, like, I remember coming home from this sermon about surrendering completely, and I crawled into the bathtub. And the bathtub was filled with ice because it was the only way I could actually calm my body down for any given time.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, as I'm laying in this bathtub, I literally don't have the energy to go get the freaking toaster to kill myself. And I remember laying in that bathtub just thinking, can I just go get something to finish this? And I eventually, I laid there for 2 hours just in the bathtub in the ice water. And then eventually I crawled out of the bathtub and I went downstairs, and I opened the TV and I put on Hillsong's 2015 or 2014, I can't remember, and it was Joyce Meyer. And I remember the sermon because it was literally word for word what I'd just heard in church. Surrender completely, or God's going to keep you in an uncomfortable position. And you know, there on the floor, I gave my heart to God.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, on the floor, so sick that I can't see straight. And I get on my knees and I say, all right, I'm yours. Please take this away from me. And you know, from that day I started getting well.
Wow. Amen.
And you know, the scary part was that I actually gave evidence into Lyme disease at the Senate inquiry for the government. And I am actually standing there with 40 other people in a room that are all giving evidence to this Senate inquiry. And you know, I had a deck of playing cards in my pocket. And have you ever played poker?
No.
Yeah,
no.
good. I was about to see if you were a bad Adventist. But if you've ever played poker, you know that it's really important to have good cards, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we put all of our journals out on the table, and all of these journals basically said exactly the same thing. You would wake up at 3 a.m. with insomnia. You would you had all the same symptoms, like very, very bad symptoms. And you see, I'm standing in this room with these 40 other people, and you know what the strange thing is? That I'm literally the only one that's well at this point. And you see, this is my biggest regret to all the people that are out there. Play your cards. Put your cards on the table. Tell them why you're well. You know what I did? I folded. And I want to stress that, men, you have the power to spread the gospel. And you know you need to do that because that's what you're called to do. That is part of your purpose. And you know, it is one of my biggest regrets that I actually folded those cards. You know, I'd come from suicidal issues to being well, and I failed to tell everybody else in that room why, because I was scared. And you know what? I have never allowed myself to be that scared ever again. That's why I'm on the radio right now, because I won't do that anymore. I will step up to the plate when God tells me to. Whether it hurts me, whether I cry in front of everybody, whether I don't, I step up to the plate because I don't have an option here. God has dragged me back by my heels more times than I can count. And you know what? In humility, I am just going to spend the rest of my life spreading the gospel to make sure that everybody knows my God and my Father. It isn't my earthly father, it's the one up there. So my second wife leaves me, and I am devastated. I struggled with it so much because I loved her. And you know, I thought she was the person for me, and yet here she was, obviously not feeling the same. I just, you know, when the money dried up, she disappeared.
Right. Yeah.
And it was gut-wrenching beyond all doubt. And you know, I actually thought she was a gift from God. And guess what? I got schooled. God schools me in the next moment. I heard 7 sermons in a row about a particular topic. And by the end of it, I was like, literally, God, what are you trying to get to me? Like, I literally went from one church to the next, and like every single sermon I would hear was exactly the same about Elijah
Yeah.
and the babbling brook. And you're like, what can this guy get out of a babbling brook and Elijah? So you have this story where Elijah is beside the babbling brook. There is no rain happening for Jezebel and the evil that's out there. And this babbling brook, Elijah is love and life because he's got water, he's got food that's being brought by ravens, and you know what? He's there and he's enjoying life. And it goes on for 3 years before, you know, God stops sending the ravens and the babbling brook dries up. Yeah? And I was like, what are you trying to get to me? I felt really stupid by the end of 7 sermons. Seriously.
Yeah.
And when the penny dropped, I was just like, no freaking way. So Elijah gets really angry at the fact that the birds stop coming and this babbling brook has dried up. And he starts cursing. Yes? And, you know, the penny that dropped here is the fact that Elijah was in love with the gift and not the giver. And I tell you now, whenever somebody talks about me and my relationships, I always tell them I'm now in love with the giver, not the gift. The wife that I am with now, she is a gift from God as well. But I tell you who's first? My Creator. I am in love with the giver now. But I was in love with the gift before that. So I have $30,000 worth of credit card debt. Now I say that I jumped out of the frying pan into the fire because the second ex-wife breaks windows, doors, and shatters the sinks in the bathrooms and all sorts of things, and then manages to take her name off the lease and leaves me with the debt. And so the real estate agent's coming after me for about $4 or $5 grand.
Yeah.
And I've got $32,000 in credit card debt, and we've split up and gone our own ways. And Family and Community Services called me and said, did you know that she kicked your daughter down the stairs? And I was like, no way. Like, my life implodes again a second time. If you thought you didn't get enough on the first round, well, yeah, I've gone for round 2, and the bout's coming pretty. Actually, this is round 3 technically because I've been sick for a long period of time.
Yeah.
So, like, one thing I want to tell you, and this is the next tip. Are you ready?
I'm ready for you. My pen's ready.
So this planet is owned by the devil, and when you're on the devil's territory, he has the right to rob you. The only way to not be on the devil's territory is to actually have your hedge of protection around your family and yourself. So, there's your tip. Recognize that this is the devil's territory. Okay?
Yeah. Now, how old was your daughters at this point?
Oh, I don't even remember exactly. One of the things I'm really bad at is birthdays.
Okay.
So, my eldest daughter was about 6, I think. Yeah, about 6. Nearly 7,
Yeah.
I think. And then, yeah, look. So I ended up really struggling with all this debt that I had, and the real estate agent's coming after me, and I'm, really messed up. And I end up getting asked by the pastor that was at Lilydale Academy to come to camp, and I'm like, I can't come to camp. I don't have any money to come to camp, and I make the decision. So the real estate agent's coming after me with tribunal.
Mhm.
Now tribunals in Australia are very nasty,
Mhm.
and so they're coming after me for that, and they're like, we're going to put you through tribunal, and I'm like, well, look, I'm an honourable bloke. I will try and pay you back, but can we just, forego this stuff? I'm also getting evicted from the house because obviously there's damage. There's all sorts of things going on, and we've cut a long story short here. There's a bit in the middle. I'm just very mindful of the time at the moment.
Yeah.
But I really want to get this out there because it's about the finance of things and what God can actually do in your life. Now, so I go to camp with $80 in my bank account after I paid for petrol to get there. I had about $80 left, and the tribunal fell right in the middle of camp, and I was like, God, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm gonna go where you send me now, because I've surrendered. And I asked my partner at the time, hey, do you wanna come on this journey with me? I'm gonna surrender to God. You know what she said? I'm not interested in this anymore, and left. That was the end of our relationship.
Yeah.
So I end up at camp, and it's I prayed with a pastor until very small hours of the night. It was 1 or 2 o'clock, because I'm expecting. I hadn't paid the credit card in 6 months.
Yeah.
And so they call them the angel of death is coming for me as well. And I'm waiting on that phone call as well as the real estate agent. And I hadn't, I determined that I wasn't going to go to the tribunal because I owed them the money anyway. So I was like, stuff it, I'm just not going to go. I'll obviously get a court summons, and they'll end up, causing me pain for that. And you see, in the morning, I prayed all night before Wednesday, before the tribunal, because I was like, I'm not going to drive back, I'm just going to pray. So I prayed with a pastor until he was the captain of the juniors, just so you know. He was really cool. He was in captain's hat and everything. And after praying with him, I managed to get some sleep, and then in the morning, lo and behold, I get a phone call from the real estate I got an email from the real estate agent, and it said the bond is being dispersed back to you, and tribunal has been cancelled, have a nice day. And I was like, what the heck? So I literally rang the real estate agent, and I said, what the heck is this? She said, I don't know what happened last night, but the owner of the house rang me. He's decided that he's paying for the damages out of his own pocket for the house, and he's decided to give you the bond back. Have a lovely day. I said, thank you, goodbye. I didn't give her any chance to change that one. I was like, no, we aren't giving you any chance to change the, so I got off the phone really fast.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting there marveling at the fact that God just did this. And I'm going through a second court battle, just so you know. So I've spent one, now I'm going through another court battle. And I don't even know how I'm going to pay for it. I'm like, yeah. And on exactly the same day, the Commonwealth Bank rang me, and the lady says, I need to identify you, and you haven't paid your credit card in 6 months. We need to send the sheriff around to your house to take all your possessions. And I'm like, I'm an honourable bloke. I will try and pay something. Can we just give me some nil interest? Or something like that, just to get me through for the next 3 to 6 months to try and, get back on to. And do you know what $30,000 is at 20% interest? That ain't pretty.
No.
It was literally $500-600 a month just in interest payment. And I just said, look, can you please give me some nil interest? I'm going through a court battle and I'm struggling. And she started saying, no, look, we're already past that point. We need to send the sheriff around to your house. And I was like, could you please just go and ask somebody if there's a possibility of something else?
Mm.
And I'm praying silently as this is all happening. And you know, I'd made the decision to go to camp, and I'm not even in a location where I can get back to give them access to my house. It's
Yeah.
impossible. And you know, I was like, all right. And eventually she came around and she said, look, I'm going to go and talk to someone. She says, I will call you back in 1 hour exactly. If you do not answer the phone, the sheriff will be on your door. Okay? And I was like, okay, thank you so much, please. And so while I am hanging out with the juniors, we were on the boat, and they're water skiing and doing all the fun things that kids get to do at summer camps. And you know, summer camps is actually one of the reasons why I had that connection with the pastor.
Yeah,
And
right. Yeah.
that's why I ended up coming back to God. So don't ever put, you know, we need to keep summer camps going for our kids because they're amazing. Now I'm on the back of the boat when this lady from Commonwealth calls me, and I actually had to get them to stop the boat because I couldn't hear her. So I was like, can you calm down the boat? And she gets on the phone and she's like, hey, I need to verify you. Verifies me. And I say to her with quivering voice, did you manage to get me any nil interest? And you know what she says? No, I didn't. And she was kind of very abrupt with saying that. And I kind of broke down on the boat. I started crying on the back of the boat because it's like, you know, dads that can't provide, man, that breaks you. Well, she goes, no, you don't understand. She says, I can't give you any nil interest because your credit card doesn't exist anymore.
What?
So the Commonwealth Bank forgave a $32,932 credit card. And they literally wrote it off and deleted it. And I can show you the form, like that they actually sent me that said your debt has been forgiven. You know
what?
You know that like I said, I likened it to the fact that, you know, Jesus was looking at the disciples struggling on the waves and the water. And here I am sitting on the back of the boat amongst the storm because it obviously made it really rocky. And you know what I want to tell you, men out there? It isn't about, you know, the boat and the stuff that you're going through. It's about the fact that Jesus can hop in your boat with.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah.
And there's the mic drop moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They forgave. God had a $32,000 credit card forgiven. I have rung so many people and said, have you ever heard of this happening before? And they're like, no, it doesn't happen. They forgave a $32,000 credit card.
Wow.
And in the same day, God forgave all my debts. And you know, He can do exactly the same thing for you. He can forgive all your debts. He covers everything by the blood. And you know, I've always wondered and worried as a dad about all the bad things that I have done in my life. And you know, it wasn't until last year that I actually figured something out and it changed my life again. And I just keep stumbling in His direction, guys. I'm not perfect by any means, shape or form.
Yeah.
All I do is keep stumbling in His direction. And I think that that's good enough. Because, you know, somebody explained to me recently that when I get to heaven, my book, it's going to be really big, you know, with all the bad stuff that I've done. But when they open the cover, they ain't going to be able to read it because His blood covers mine.
Hallelujah.
And so I've always wondered, you know, when everybody sees all the bad things that I've done, you know, how can I ever recover from that? Well, you don't have to, because your Father in heaven has got you covered. And that is how a real father acts.
Right. Right.
And now I have an understanding of the Father heart of God. It's something that, and you've only heard 50 52%.
So we got 52%. So
Yeah,
so does that mean we've got you back for a 48% at some point in the future?
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
We'll figure it out.
No, but Owen, I mean, this is a very, very, very moving testimony, and you can see a lot of the comments are coming in and they're saying, "Wow, awesome, hallelujah." It's we've had hand claps. Those are the comments that are coming in. We got praise the Lord. I mean, all of those sorts of sentiments. That's kind of. I just looked across at Charlie's screen.
Can't read them all.
I looked across at Charlie's screen and somebody said, "Please publish." I know they're referring to your book. I just saw a "please publish." So we've got all of those comments, and it's very much highlighting. It's very much highlighting the father position. The when I began by saying, my notes said, Jesus taught us to pray, "Our Father." And he said, what do we think of when we think of a father? And that is how Jesus has stepped right in to your life. He's protected, he's covered you, he's provided. What does he require in order for us to be there? Is it surrender? Is that the word?
That's what I would say.
Surrender.
Surrender your heart completely to God.
Surrender is what he requires. Because in all of my studies and anything I'm doing, it says, completely surrender. Just believe. You can have access to his love, and you can have access to this, but just believe. That's what he asks. And in this example, it's total surrender. We can be flapping and flailing around, but if we just surrender. The note here that I read before that section of your testimony was, Satan hates fathers. And I guess knowing that, and we then try to fight in our own strength, and we're not surrendering and not believing and not opening ourselves up, not fully accessing the things of the Father. Okay, so are you at a pause? Do you have any more gems for us?
Man, look, so
I've got 8 tips so far, 7 tips so far. Go on, what else have you got for us?
Do you mind if I finish on a Bible verse?
Oh no, go for it, please do.
All right, so I just want to say to everybody.
Owen says he's finishing part 1 on a
Part
Bible
one,
verse.
okay, no worries.
No, go on.
There's
Go
a
on.
lot more parts.
Go on. No,
So, I kind of view my life like a bit of a wasteland, and it's, it's been not fun getting here.
Mhm.
I can't say I've enjoyed the experience, but I can tell you that God doesn't waste that wasteland. He has helped me with my debt, with my business, and now my businesses are kingdom builders for Him. So if you're running a business, make sure that you are kingdom building your business, not just pushing along as normal. Make sure it's His business, because He's the CEO of my businesses, and I tell you what, my businesses thrive like nothing else since I've done that. I think that there are parts of my story that really, really hurt, and there's also parts of my story that you haven't heard that are insanely good.
Mhm.
Even how I ended up in London is incredible. So I just want to finish on one verse, and it is this, and it's actually the beginning of the book. It says, "But forget all that is past. It is nothing compared to what I am going to do. For I am about to do something new. See, I have already begun. Do you not see it? I will make a pathway through the wilderness, and I will create rivers in the dry wasteland." Isaiah 43:19.
Isaiah 43:19.
Men that are out there that are struggling with things, I can promise you that God can actually restore you. He can rebuild you, and when you are rebuilt, you will be one of His soldiers.
Okay. No, thank you for that. Oh, I'll just make one point. That clock is actually wrong. We have an extra 2 minutes more than that clock says. But I will go over some of these tips.
Okay, no, I've got one more story.
Oh,
Are you
okay.
ready?
No, we'll take your story.
Okay, cool. One more story. All right. So I live by faith now,
Yeah.
and I want to tell you about the trust.
Mm-hmm.
So there was another pastor. I help a lot of pastors these days, And there was a pastor that was running at a school, and he was like, I love sound and lighting. Obviously, I got trained in the enemy camp, guys. Come on. So I was trained in the enemy camp nightclubs. I used to run sound and lighting.
Okay.
And so he's like, oh, well, look, I really want to jazz up the event that we're running for the kids, to make sure that there was about 600 kids going to this event. And he's like, what lighting do you have? I was like, I can do it all free. It's fine. I'm fine with that. And I was like, we need some truss. That's what we need. Now, he's like, I don't have any budget. I was like, don't worry. We'll sort it out. God will sort it out. I had no money in my account, just so you know. None. Zero. So I drove over to the DJ shop, and I'm looking at their truss, their demo truss that's actually sitting there. And I'm like, would you sell me the demo truss? And, in Sydney, you can't buy truss. They have to order it in for you, and it's usually a 2-week wait. We're like 2 days before this whole event is going live.
Right.
And I'm living by faith. But I drive over to this DJ shop, and there's no truss there. They don't have any. I asked them. They said, no, sorry, we don't have any truss. I said, will you sell me this demo piece that's going up over the top here? Because that'd be perfect. We can put lights on it and, mount it, and it's going to look amazing for the kids. And they're like, no, we can't sell the demo truss. Sorry, it's got all our stuff on it. And I was like, okay. And I'm being snoopy. So I looked over and around the door, and there's 2 big pieces of truss sitting just inside the door with a name and a label on it that says sold, right? And my wife, who's my current wife, was actually standing right next to me at the time, and she's standing there. She's like, you're crazy. What are you doing? And I said, oh, what about that truss? And he's like, oh, that's sold. Can't you see the sold thing? I'm like, can you just check in the system? And so he goes and checks the system, and he goes, just hang on a second, I need to go talk to the manager. So he goes to talk to the manager, comes back to him, and he goes, you're not going to believe this, but the manager actually ordered one, and I ordered one, so that truss is actually sellable.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I'm like, right. I still have no money. And my wife is literally elbowing me in the arm, going, you don't have any money. You've got no money. You can't buy any truss. I was like, I live by faith. I'm praying, literally at the counter. And I'm standing there, and I'm like, God, where are you? And I kid you not, as I go to pay, I look at my bank account, and there is the exact amount of money in my bank account. A company from a year and a half ago paid an invoice that they had missed in that moment, and the money drops into my account, and my wife is literally gobsmacked. She is like, no freaking way. And there is just enough money for me and her to get lunch. God doesn't meet your needs. He exceeds your expectations every time.
Jacqueline Sutherland says about your Isaiah 43:19. I love that text. Wow. Well, we have run out of time now. We have on all the clocks in the studio now says
10 seconds.
Well, it says no. We're 45 seconds over, but we'll live with that. It's only time for me to say, well, Owen, thank you very, very, very much. That has been an excellent show. A bit of a departure to how some of the shows run, but a beautiful and well. No. I apologise for making something better. Yes, beautiful program, and very timely, and it's very helpful. And it would be nice if you're ever available to come back in a future season, to come back and join us. I have the tips that you've provided. They're in the show. I will put them on the side of the Spreaker of the podcast, so we can have them highlighted separately. But that was an excellent presentation. I was certainly blessed by it, and certainly some of these tips, I'm going, I thought I was a man of faith. Good grief. So I'm going to go home and implement some of the things that you've suggested here. So it's only time for us to say good night. Thank you so much, Charlie.
One more thing.
Yeah, go on.
One more thing. Owen, can you just pray us out?
No, I would love to. Heavenly Father, I just ask that all those that are listening tonight, that you can show them that you are real, that you are there, that you are in the mess with them, that you are willing to hop into their boat and calm the storm. Lord, I just praise you for everything that you have done in my life. I just ask that you help me remain humble, that you help me to be your soldier here on earth, that you help me to go wherever you send me. Lord, I just praise you for these people that are here with me in the studio, that they are a blessing to you and to the people out there. Lord, I just pray for all those that are struggling with things tonight. I ask that you can fill them completely with the Holy Spirit, that they might feel your presence just like a father. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much. Good night, everybody. We'll see you all for the final episode in this season next week, Wednesday at 8 o'clock, God willing. Have a blessed week. Bye-bye.